Hello, welcome to another episode of Revive Hi-Fi Canada. And we have today, we're going to feature a larger speaker again. We don't really feature many bigger speakers. I'm going to have a little bit of discussion about why I really prefer bookshelf speakers at about 14 inches and below. But today we have a bit of a treat. We have the KEF C40 speakers. They are made in the UK. It's a vintage speaker. They have a soft dome tweeter, and they have a what did we call maybe a 2.5 way, so it's not quite a 3-way. They've got two woofers that are actually about their 8-inch woofers that are pretty much the same, but the crossover does run lower frequency in the lower woofer, and the middle at the higher woofer, and the upper in the tweeter, of course. As far as these speakers go for construction, they're a vinyl wrap, so they're not the highest quality KEFs, but KEF is a great speaker maker. They're one of my favorites, along with PSB and Bowers and Wilkins and JBL and Monitor Audio. I really like many of those brands. I have to say that I enjoy listening to these speakers. In terms of their specifications, they're rated in terms of bass. We'll start with bass. The bass goes down, rated down to about 68 hertz. So they're not huge bass monsters, but you know what? For most music that I would listen to on here, I've been listening to these for a little bit here, and I would say they do just fine. I didn't use any kind of sub or anything. They're quite large. They're about 20, or they're over 20 inches tall, so they don't really need. They're a sealed box, so there's no port. So for a sealed box, it gives out a very clean, tight bass, and that's what I find is a characteristic of a sealed box speaker. And what I mean by that is it doesn't have any type of bass port on the front or on the back. They're probably the entry level KEFs, I would imagine, at the time. But even an entry level KEF is among one of the top speaker makers in terms of what us normal folks like myself would be able to afford and buy and try out. And it's all the fun of this audio hobby. And I would say that having a soft dome tweeter, if we talk about the highs, the soft dome tweeter it's really nice. It actually doesn't give you any type of shrillness, and I find that with a lot of these vintage KEF speakers, they don't give too much in the way of shrillness. The soft dome tweeter and the mids is where I feel like, most British speakers really feature the mid-range, and these do a very good job on the mid-range. My only hesitation here is that I feel like there's some mid-range detail loss between in the tweeter and in the mid woofer there, and I think some of it has to do with the speed of movement of the higher woofer that's trying to capture the mids. I find that having a smaller mid woofer maybe can catch those mids faster than a larger woofer, which tends to maybe move not as fast. That being said, newer speakers, I have the Monitor Audio Silver 107G, which has an 8-inch woofer as well, and I can tell you something, they can catch every detail, even in the mids. So the newer technology can do that. These are from the 90s. I would say that would be my only criticism of these speakers. The mids are very good, and the highs are very good. It's just that they're not quite as detailed as some of the newer offerings or some of the metal tweeters that you see out there right now, and even in the past. I would say my JBL S38s. They're also an 8-inch woofer. They're a 3-way. They have a mid that's smaller. I think it's a 4-inch mid, and they tend to find more of the detail in the music. And the tweeter's titanium dome, and the JBL S38, which we'll have on a later video, does sound really amazing. It's one of my speakers that I don't see myself selling anytime soon or moving on. These, on the other hand, These are very good. I have newer KEFs, a KEF Q150 that have aluminum tweeter, and those are going to be on the channel as well. And I would say that these are more of a softer, laid back kind of sound, and you can listen to these for hours and you'd enjoy it. They sound really smooth. I would say that. I guess the best word to describe these is smooth. And you always have to be careful with bass ratings. These are rated down to 68 hertz, but it's that bass roll off. So when they're rated down to 68 hertz, it's how steep they drop off. When they get down past 68 hertz, if they're getting down to 40 and they're not really dropping off many decibels, then yeah, they're gonna have more bass. And these don't have such a steep drop off, and it makes sense. They have two 8-inch woofers. They can do a little bit more of the lower range, but they give a more conservative rating. They're not bad looking, at least in my opinion. It's always everybody's opinion how these speakers look, and yeah, I would say they're pretty decent. If you see them in the used market, they're not a bad speaker that you might want to try out. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for listening. As I said before, we have this is a channel that features some of the audio equipment that you might find on the used and new market in your area and you're kind of wondering about, and we like to talk about some of this equipment. We have amps, we have speakers, we have receivers, we have DACs that are coming up in the channel. So I hope you stay tuned and subscribe if you enjoy. And yes, we try to keep things chill here from Revive Hi-Fi Canada. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll be having a couple demos of the speaker. Again, these are not to try and have you make a decision, but they're just how they might behave in a real environment. Like, this is my living room, and you might see how they behave in a regular environment. No sound treatment on any of the walls or anything. So it's just what you might find, and how they might sound. And I would not base a decision, of course, on the sound demos, but please enjoy them, and thank you. Well, in terms of imaging and sound stage, I would say that the stereo imaging on these speakers is really good. You can get, it's quite nice. I would say sound stage, the imaging, the only place where the imaging suffers, I'd say, in some of the details, and I mentioned that earlier. And in terms of sound stage, they're big. So these speakers, I believe, are 25, 26 inches tall, and so they're big, and they do cast a wide sound stage, but then, you know, they're about as wide as you'd expect from a speaker this size. If I have a tiny speaker sitting here that's putting out a huge sound stage, kind of similar to what I would say, my DefTech Studio Monitor 45s, they put out a lot of soundstage for a tiny speaker about 12 inches tall. These are 25, 26 inches tall, so I would expect them to sound really big and to put out big sound, and they do, but they're not any bigger than I would expect from a speaker this size. So take that for what you will. I'm going to play another song, and again, thank you very much for listening.